Welcome to the Rugby Obsession Deep Dive. And right off the bat, before we get into the heavy tactical breakdown, if you want to stay ahead of the game, make sure you subscribe to the Rugby Obsession YouTube channel and newsletter from the link in the description.
Yeah, you definitely want to be subscribed for this one.
Oh, absolutely. So let's unpack this, because, imagine assembling a massive, intricate puzzle where half the pieces have been locked in a box for 8 months.
And you're missing the corners.
Right, you're missing the corners, and your captain just tore a hamstring. By all conventional logic, this puzzle shouldn't fit together at all.
It really shouldn't. But today, we're looking at how the Springboks somehow managed to force those mismatched pieces into a gritty 17-10 victory over Argentina.
Los Pumas, down in Buenos Aires. And our mission for you today is to explore a really fascinating concept, like why an ugly win might actually reveal a lot more about the foundational DNA of a world champion team than a flawless highlight reel victory.
Especially when you consider what this specific match signals, with the highly anticipated greatest rivalry series against the All Blacks looming on the horizon.
Exactly. So, if you are looking for the perfect blueprint of fluid running rugby, I'll warn you right now, this match wasn't it.
Not at all.
But if you want a masterclass in pure, unadulterated resilience and the underlying mechanics of test match survival, you are absolutely in the right place. Keep your own opinions in mind as we analyze this, because we're going to be asking for your thoughts later on.
It really is the ultimate case study in finding a way to win when your primary systems are completely short-circuiting.
Completely.
The phrase from the coverage that really sticks with me is that this performance was no masterpiece. The source actually notes that if this match were a painting, absolutely no one would want it framed and hung in the Louvre. Imperious, they were not.
Yeah, they were light years away from imperious. To put it in perspective, we can't just look at this like a rusty classic car that simply sputtered down the road. It was more like a machine with fundamentally misaligned gears. Think about it strategically. If your forwards, who act as the drive shaft to the team, are just half a second late to secure the breakdown, it means your fly half, the steering mechanism, is instantly put under crushing pressure.
And the entire sequence just becomes clunky. But there is a very clear reason for that misalignment. We're talking about 15 frontliners missing from the squad.
Which is wild.
And 5 members of the starting 15 were playing their first game in 8 months.
8 months. And on top of that, you have the captain, Siya Kolisi, lost to a hamstring injury. Though here's where it gets really interesting. Head coach Rassie Erasmus specifically noted that Kolisi pulled his other hamstring.
Wait, not the one that kept him out previously?
Exactly, not the original injury, and Rassie actually played down the severity of it.
Well, that's somewhat good news.
True, but I have to push back on this idea that surviving this mess is a purely positive thing. Like, is grit actually enough? With 15 top-tier players missing and 5 guys blowing off 8 months of cobwebs, isn't it a massive red flag that a world-class team struggled this much?
That is the exact tension South African fans are feeling right now. It's a very fair challenge. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, you have to separate a lack of immediate cohesion from a lack of inherent capability.
So you're saying the rust was just unavoidable?
The rest was undeniably evident, yeah, and it manifested in very specific technical ways. For instance, you had 2 inexperienced props who were visibly struggling in the scrum.
Let's pause there for a second, because casual observers might just see a collapsed scrum and think, it's just big guys falling over. Why does 2 inexperienced props struggling disrupt the rest of the game so severely?
Because the scrum isn't just about restarting the game. It is the physical and psychological foundation of your attack. It's about angles, binding, generating forward momentum.
Right, so if your props are struggling to maintain their footing or handle the dark arts of the opposition's front row?
The slight shifts in body weight, exactly, the pressure on the neck and shoulders, they get driven backward. And when a scrum goes backward, your scrum half receives dirty slow ball while moving backward themselves.
Which instantly neutralizes your backline because the defense has all the time in the world to rush up.
And that leads directly to the next issue. Sacha Feinberg Mungamazulu, who the sources say frankly lost the playmaker battle on the day to Argentina's Santi Carreras.
Wait, help me understand that, though. We hear the phrase losing the playmaker battle thrown around a lot in sports media. What does that actually look like mechanically on the pitch? Is it just poor kicking, bad passing?
It's primarily deeper decision-making under pressure and spatial awareness. The fly half has to constantly read the defensive line. If the defense is blitzing, rushing up quickly to cut off the outside passing lanes, the playmaker has to decide in a fraction of a second.
Whether to kick for territory, take the ball flat, or pass deep.
Exactly. And Feinberg Mungamazulu was struggling with that processing speed. He was caught behind the gain line, taking extra steps. That allowed the Argentine defense to swallow up the Springbok attack before it even started.
But Carreras, on the other hand, was putting the ball exactly where it needed to be.
Manipulating the Springbok defensive line with little grubber kicks and perfectly timed passes. And yet, this is my crucial takeaway to answer your previous challenge. Despite losing the physical battle at the scrum and the tactical battle at fly half, grinding out a win on a freezing cold day miles from home is the hallmark of a champion side.
It's a stress test.
Yes. They proved that even when the machinery is entirely broken, their foundational defensive grit can still win a test match.
I hear your point on the stress test, but we can't talk about this game without talking about who was applying that stress. Because it wasn't just the Springboks dropping the ball in a vacuum. Argentina forced those errors.
They absolutely did.
And I was just blown away by the tactical evolution of Los Pumas in this match.
What's fascinating here is the massive attitude shift we saw from Argentina. If you look back at their previous match against England, a game they also lost on the final play, it was chaotic.
Right, they were drawing on this reckless, almost volatile emotion.
Seemingly inspired by their World Cup footballers. There were histrionics, fans booing the opposition anthem, the team wearing kits paying homage to Diego Maradona's Hand of God goal. It was entirely fueled by unbridled passion.
But passion without a framework is just chaos. It makes you lose your head in crucial moments.
Exactly. But against the Springboks, all of that emotional baggage was left in the locker room. Instead, we saw a disciplined, suffocating defense.
And when we say suffocating defense, we are talking about a highly coordinated blitz system. Argentina wasn't just tackling whoever had the ball. They were flying off the defensive line in unison, cutting off the Springboks' ability to pass wide.
They forced the South African ball carriers to step back inside into heavy traffic,
isolating them so the Argentine forwards could swarm the breakdown and steal the ball. And Santi Carreras was in full, calculated control of himself and the game at fly half.
which was a stark contrast to Thomas Albornoz completely losing his head against England.
We absolutely have to talk about Pablo Matera, too. 33 years old, stepping in as the stand-in skipper, and he was just brilliant. Our sources note he eclipsed even Cameron Hanekom.
Who we'll talk about in a minute, because Hanekom was actually excellent on his first start at number 8.
Right, but Matera was everywhere. The source highlights this outrageous 50-22 kick he pulled off that completely shifted the territorial pressure. For anyone not deeply familiar with the rulebook, a 50-22 is when a player kicks the ball from behind their own 50-meter line, and it bounces in the field of play before going out of bounds inside the opposition's 22-meter area.
And the strategic value of that cannot be overstated. Normally, the team that kicks the ball out of bounds loses possession. The other team gets to throw the ball into the lineout.
But the 50-22 rule rewards the kicking team with the attacking lineout.
Right. Matera, a forward, executing a perfectly weighted kick that bounces and rolls out deep in Springbok territory is a devastating blow. It instantly flips the field, turning a defensive situation into a prime attacking opportunity.
It takes incredible skill, vision, and timing, which makes the ending of this match just, it's brutal. It's pure tragedy.
It really is. After everything Argentina put into that performance, all the discipline and tactical execution, it comes down to the absolute final play, the 15th phase of the final movement.
Matera's 50-22 had given them one last shot at the line.
The try line is literally at Matias Moroni's mercy. All he has to do is catch it and fall forward.
And he fumbles a high pass, he drops the ball, the final whistle blows, and he just collapses and bursts into tears.
It's awful to watch, but man, does it show what this means to them. It's the raw, unfiltered reality of Test rugby.
Before we flip the script and look at how South Africa actually survived that absolute masterclass from Argentina, let me just quickly remind you to subscribe to the Rugby Obsession YouTube channel and newsletter from the link in the description. We love breaking down these tactical shifts, and you won't want to miss what's coming next.
So what does this all mean for the Springboks? Because from the heartbreak of Argentina, we really have to pivot back to how South Africa found a way to win when nothing was working.
I mean, they were trailing 10-3 early on after Benjamin Grondona scored a really smart early try for the Pumas. The Bucks looked completely out of rhythm. How did they pull this out of the fire?
It came down to finding micro moments of absolute execution when it mattered most, even if the surrounding 79 minutes were messy. Right on the stroke of halftime, they clawed back that 10-3 deficit with a rare sequence of perfection.
Oh, that passing sequence was phenomenal. Andre Esterweisen somehow gets this ball, and while he is completely off balance, falling backward with defenders in his face, he manages to fire off a wonder of a pass to Kane and Moody.
Think about the core strength and rotational torque required to whip a ball accurately across your body while your feet are slipping out from under you.
Moody's hands are just as impressive. He catches it, immediately feeds it to Effelio Fassi, who then sends Abel van der Merwe over the line.
It was an incredibly complex biomechanical chain reaction executed under extreme duress.
And psychologically, striking right on the stroke of halftime is devastating for the opposition. It erased all of Argentina's early dominance on the scoreboard in one fell swoop.
But even then, South Africa couldn't pull away. It wasn't until 17 minutes from time that they actually took the lead, and it was the famed bomb squad that set the platform.
Death, taxes, and the bomb squad showing up in the final quarter. But again, let's unpack the how here. They engineered a 5-meter scrum pushover, with Cameron Hanekom dabbing the ball down. People call it a brute force safety net. But a pushover try isn't just about being heavier than the other guys, is it?
Not at all. A pushover try is a symphony of physics and coordination. You have 8 massive men who have to act as a single rigid spine. If one player's hips are too high or a lock binds too loosely, the energy of the shove leaks out and the scrum splinters.
So the front row has to get underneath the chest of the Argentine front row to lift their center of gravity.
Then, on the scrum half's call, all 8 men have to fire their leg drive at the exact same millisecond. They essentially turn themselves into a human snowplow, steering the back of the scrum over the try line while maintaining control of the ball at the number 8's feet.
And Cameron Hanekom, on his first start, expertly controlled that ball at the base and dabbed it down.
When the open play isn't working, when the fly half is struggling, the Boks revert to this incredibly technical set-piece dominance.
And Rassie Erasmus's reaction to all of this after the match was really telling. He wasn't stressed at all. He basically came out and said, look, obviously it wasn't pretty, obviously it wasn't perfect, but we are very happy with how hard we ground this one out.
He was thrilled with the character the players showed in such a hostile environment, and he pointed out how crucial it was to just get precious minutes into the legs of key guys like Eben Etzebeth, Lou de Jager, and Feinberg Mngumezulu.
He explicitly said that knockout-level rugby is always close, and this is exactly the kind of match you learn from. Which brings me to a question for you listening right now. I want you to head to the comments and tell us, was Rassie's incredibly relaxed attitude here a genius psychological play to keep the pressure off his squad? Or is he masking some genuine concern about where this team is at tactically? Let us know what you think.
It's a great question for the listeners because Rassie is a master of narrative manipulation, but if we take him at his word, he values character over perfection in these specific windows.
He knows that exposing fringe players and scraping the rust off veterans in a stadium like Velez with the crowd going absolutely wild is an asset you simply cannot replicate on a quiet training pitch.
And that specific brand of battle-hardened survival is exactly what Erasmus is banking on, because they are going to need every single ounce of that instinct for what comes next.
New Zealand. The greatest rivalry looms. This 4-test gauntlet against the All Blacks is what everyone back in South Africa is intensely focused on. Now, the article we are analyzing literally has a headline suggesting that the All Blacks need not worry after watching this clunky Springboks performance. But is it really that simple to write them off?
Well, the article argues that a narrow, highly flawed win is hardly likely to keep New Zealand awake at night. But if we dig into the preparation gap between the two sides, the context becomes fascinating.
The prep gap is huge.
Exactly. The All Blacks opened their tour taking a full hour to finally get the measure of the Stormers. But crucially, New Zealand still has 2 warm-up games left to play before the series officially kicks off at Ellis Park.
While the Springboks only have the training field, that is a massive disparity in match sharpness. Plus, you have to factor in the sheer brutality of the upcoming schedule for South Africa.
They are playing 4 tests on 4 consecutive weekends.
And they aren't just playing. They're switching from altitude in Johannesburg down to sea level in Cape Town and then back up to altitude again before heading to a completely different continent.
Let's unpack that physiological toll because we hear commentators mention it a lot. But what does that actually do to a rugby player's body?
It creates absolute chaos for recovery. When you play at high altitude, the air is thinner, meaning there's less oxygen available. Your body has to work exponentially harder, and your heart rate spikes much faster.
So to compensate during training, your body produces more red blood cells.
Right, and when you drop down to sea level for the next match, you temporarily feel superhuman because your blood is oxygen-rich. But ping-ponging back up to altitude the very next week completely derails the body's natural adaptation cycle.
It disrupts sleep patterns, it floods the muscles with lactic acid that becomes harder to flush out, and it severely fatigues the central nervous system.
Doing that for 4 consecutive weeks is a recipe for physical breakdown. It's a terrifying amount of variables piling up. You have that physiological toll. You have the fitness clock ticking loudly on Siya Kolisi. Like, is a fortnight enough time for a hamstring to heal enough for Test rugby? Will Paul de Villiers get to continue what's been a really impressive breakout year?
And most importantly, can the Springboks sort out their attacking structure, which Erasmus flat out admitted needs fixing? It is a staggering amount to fix in 2 weeks.
But this is exactly where Erasmus's belief system anchors the team. He assured the fans back home that staying calm and grinding out a result when you are playing terrible rugby shows that the team is handling pressure better than before.
Learning to survive a wild crowd and a suffocating defense is, in his eyes, the ultimate preparation for New Zealand, because the All Blacks will bring exactly that kind of pressure, only faster and more clinical.
Which brings me to a final thought I want to leave you with. The conventional wisdom from this source is that the All Blacks shouldn't worry because the Springboks look disjointed, rusty, and clunky.
But let's flip that entirely on its head for a second.
If a heavily rotated, incredibly rusty Springboks team, missing 15 top-tier frontliners, can still manage to physically overpower a deeply disciplined, highly motivated Puma side in the final 17 minutes on a freezing cold night in Buenos Aires, well, isn't that sheer, undeniable grit exactly what should keep New Zealand awake at night?
It's one thing to beat a team when they are firing on all cylinders and playing beautifully.
It's entirely another, much scarier prospect to try and break a team that simply refuses to lose, even when their own machinery is failing them. We really want to know where you stand on this. Who holds the true psychological advantage heading into Ellis Park? Jump into the comments and share your thoughts and opinions with us.
It's the ultimate debate in Test rugby. Do you fear the team with fluid style and sharpness, or the team with pure, unyielding character?
Absolutely. Make sure you hit that subscribe button to subscribe to the Rugby Obsession YouTube channel and newsletter from the link in the description to keep up with all of our tactical coverage leading up to the series. Thank you for listening to the Rugby Obsession Deep Dive, and we'll look forward to you listening to our next episode.